The following program is a presentation of the Communications Department at the College of St. Rose.
Hello and welcome to the St. Rose Show. My name is Ivana and my guest today is Nino Harashvili from Republic of Georgia, part of former Soviet Union. Hello Nino and thanks for joining us today.
Hello and thank you for inviting.
You're welcome. So Nino, you are getting your master's degree here at St. Rose in business administration.
Yes.
And you are a Maskey scholar. So can you tell us something more about the scholarship program that brought you here at first place?
Yes, of course. As you told, I'm a Maskey scholar, and this is a program administered by IREX, and this program is US funded. So I applied like 1 year before, and I went through the application, through the whole process, and I won the scholarship. That's why I'm here. I'm very proud of it, honestly.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
And what kind of tests, or what was the norms to pass to get the scholarship?
It was quite difficult, believe me, because there was application process as it is, and a lot of paperwork and essay writing, and you need to prove why you are the best to win the scholarship. And besides that, I passed TOEFL exam and GMAT, which are requirements for business programs. And actually, the ranking was requirements was really high. So I'm, as you're my friend, you know that I'm a medical doctor. So for me, passing the GMAT was really quite difficult, but I made it.
That's good. And how many people from Georgia got the scholarship at the same time when you did?
It was like 17 people, if I remember correctly, but application were 500. Oh. So it was 500 application per 17 place.
Quite a competition.
So it was quite difficult.
So you said you have a medical degree that you got from your home country.
Yeah.
And then you came here and you start to work on getting your master's degree in business administration. So how did you find connection between medicine and business?
Yeah, actually, this is very frequently asked question. A lot of people are asking me why, as a medical doctor, I decided to do an MBA. Mm-hmm. That's because I was working in a hospital. Like when I graduated from the medical school, I was working quite a long time, like 2 years as an administrative manager of one of the biggest hospital in Georgia. It is a children's hospital, and I was doing a lot of administrative and a lot of management things there. Besides that, I was leading different projects. For example, even now I'm leading one project.
Here from America?
Yes, from America, because I couldn't cut the contract. So that's why I'm now virtually managing this project. And actually, this is an agreement between Germany and my country, between Georgia. And they are kind of importing the drugs for leukemia, ill children, and for tuberculosis. So it's quite very important project for my country, and I just couldn't say, I'm just going to do my MBA and bye-bye. So
responsible and serious
I'm
thing.
a very responsible person, so I took my project with me, and it's giving me a hard time, especially during exams.
So you are now at the end of your second semester.
Yes.
And you have one more semester left.
Yes.
In getting your master's degree. So that means you are in Albany for almost a year.
Yes.
And coming to the United States to study was your first trip to America and your first time to face the American culture. So how did you adjust, and did you adjust at all on American way of life?
For coming to United States, it's my first time here in United States, but I didn't have the culture shock at all because I used to travel. I was living in France. I was working in the Council of Europe a couple of months, and I was in Ireland. I traveled a lot. So when I came here, it was actually a cultural difference, but it wasn't difficult to adjust at all. So I'm a very social person, you know
that's
me,
good.
so
that's good.
Easy.
And what kind of housing you have here? Where do you live here in Albany?
I'm living in quite a nice house, a little bit crazy. It's kind of international house. A lot of international students, we were living together, and it was fun, it was interesting. I'm living quite not far away from St. Rose.
Yeah, it's kind of on campus, but off campus. Yeah. So you mentioned it wasn't a bad cultural shock. But if you think particularly about Albany, is Albany a right place at this time for you to be?
Albany is the right place to study, and I'm doing my master's and very thankful for that, but it's not the place I would live, honestly, because it's quite close community and very small. I'm used to bigger cities like New York, and if I, for example, find an internship, if it would be my choice, I would go to New York and bigger cities like Chicago, Boston.
And you can you see yourself after getting your master's degree here from St. Rose living in America or going back home to Europe or going back home to Georgia?
Actually, I cannot see myself honestly in the United States because it's quite a lot of differences. And I better like Europe, so I guess I will go back to Europe, especially maybe somewhere in England or Central Europe. But I might work a couple of months or a year here.
To get some experience.
Finally, I'm planning to go back in Europe.
And what do you miss the most about your country?
My family and my mom, and cooked food, of course.
Yeah, that's always the case.
Our kitchen.
Yeah. Okay. So I can speak in my name, being an international student myself. I know how big sacrifice we are all making by just making decision to come to the United States to study here. But I can say that every year more and more international students, especially from Eastern Europe, coming to America, either on an academic scholarship, like it's your case, or an athletic scholarship, and finding their ways here. So according to young people in Georgia, in your home country, is America a great land of opportunities?
America is a great opportunity for studying. But for me and for my friends and my fellows, it's not the only opportunity. We have great universities in Europe too. So there was a choice. I could go in United States, I could go in England, and I have another choice for Nuffic scholarship in Holland. But I choose United States because it was free of charge. I just won a scholarship. I'm not paying anything here. So that's why it was risk-free for me to come here.
And the scholarship money, you are able to cover all your expenses?
Of course, it's not a luxury when you are paid when you're getting the stipend, but it's enough.
It's enough.
For student living, it's enough.
Yeah, that's good. And as we mentioned that you didn't have a great cultural shock when you came to America, I just want to know, I know how it's in my case when I compare Serbia and America, but I just want to know what would be the main cultural difference between Georgia and the States?
I could say bonding, family bonding. I used to be more close to my family. Here, I don't know, maybe I just don't have a case to be closer to the families, but I don't see this kind of bonding between children and parents. They are more independent. In my country, we have much more closer families, and family is a family, like we're everybody together.
Thank you,
this
Nino.
Is the difference.
Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you for inviting
me. And
me.
I wish you all good luck with your
I wish you everything the best, because I know you have your plans.
Thank you. Thank you. My name is Ivana for St. Rose Show.
While most college students flock to warmer climates for some fun on the beach during spring break, others use a time off from class as an opportunity to help those less fortunate. Joining me today are Candice Redden and Nina Visugi, two students from the College of St. Rose who will be participating in the campus's annual alternative spring break. Thank you for joining me today. So, you went to New Orleans last year, and you're going again this year.
That's correct.
And you're going to Florida for Habitat for Humanity.
Yes.
And what prompted you guys to want to do this as opposed to, you know, the stereotypical spring break trip?
Oh, well, I don't know. I just thought that it would be a good opportunity, like everyone else says. But there wasn't really anything in particular. I just heard someone in class talking about it, so I was like, I should check it out. I got a form, and I just ended up doing it. There wasn't really anything specific that triggered it.
Someone told me about the fact that St. Rose was sending a group of people down to New Orleans to help after Hurricane Katrina last semester. And I thought I'd really wanted to go down to do something. I didn't know how to help. I wanted to do something, but I didn't know what. So when I heard that they were doing that, I signed up right away.
And because the conditions down there were so devastating, how do you mentally prepare for something like that?
They talked to us a lot beforehand. We met 3 or 4 times as a group just to get acquainted with each other. So we had somewhat of a support system, and they tried to explain to us what it was like, but I don't think there was anything they could have said that would have prepared us for what we saw when we got there. It was crazy.
Could you tell me maybe some of the things that you saw, maybe one of the most startling things?
It's hard to explain. I think some of the things that really struck me that are sort of still in my memory are like cars on top of houses and like boats in the middle of the road, you know. And the fact that when we got out of the car, when we first got down there, everything was just dead silent because there were no animals or anything left. Like everything was gone. It was very startling. It's unsettling, that level of silence.
And what are your expectations for your spring break trip? I mean, you've never done this before, so.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going down there hoping to help people, like, you know, people that are less fortunate, because we have everything so perfect here. Like, especially college students, we don't realize that we live in a dorm, and like, it's like these nice dorms. People complain that like, oh, well, my dorm's not that great, and these people don't even have anywhere to live. So I think it would be nice to help people. And then also, I don't know anyone who's going, so I guess I'm hoping to meet people and also just to like get a different perspective on life, I guess.
And how did you just have to fill out a form, or what was the application process like in order to do a trip like this, if someone wanted to do one?
Well, I don't know about yours, but we had to like fill out a bunch of questions on how you heard about Habitat for Humanity, why you want to do it, and just a bunch of questions like that. And then if you were selected, then you just fill out a process of forms about like, you know, your personal information and stuff like that. But
Last year, was it the Interfaith Sanctuary, or did you go through the Interfaith Sanctuary, or was it through?
no, I filled out an email, like an email form. I did it, and then that's it.
Ken Scott called me in the beginning of the semester and mentioned that they were planning another trip to New Orleans, and they really wanted to find a few people who had gone before to help acquaint people with what they were going to be faced with when they got down there. But I think the process was probably the same. Last year it was through the Interfaith Sanctuary, but I think this year it's through, I forget the name of the office in 950 Madison.
Campus ministry, or community service office?
Community service
that's
office.
It. So what kind of, where are you guys staying? I know you said that last year you all stayed in kind of tent-like housing with cots. So is it going to be something similar like that this year, or?
Last year they called it a tent city. The parish that we were in, parish is like the equivalent of a county in New York State. So the county, the parish that we were staying in, had no electricity, no running water, no utilities, nothing. But they'd set up a bunch of generators and a bunch of tents in an effort to sort of help house people who wanted to come down and help. So there was this big giant tent, and inside were smaller tents, and my group all stayed in one tent on a cot together. And, well, not on the cot, but you know what I mean. We all stayed in the tent together. But this year, I guess, we're staying at a different place called Camp Hope, and that's in a rehabilitated school. And they have a similar situation with the cots, and they have shower facilities and stuff outside of the school.
Okay. Well, thank you both for joining me today. I'm Christina Valentine for Culture TV.
Hello, my name is Louis Vandenberg. As a senior here at St. Rose, I have experienced the challenge of balancing life and college while maintaining a social life with my friends. Florence Kennedy, an author and civil rights activist, once said, "Don't agonize, organize." I am a lead singer in a local band named Skadi, and have often found it hard to separate my college identity and my band identity, especially when it comes to doing homework and other high priority assignments. A key to my success has been a simple calendar. By writing down everything I need to do, I'm able to stay organized, and not to mention when I finish something, I can go back to my list and cross it off, which gives me a feeling of relief and accomplishment. So next time you're feeling down about all the work you have to do, in and out of school, write something down and cross it out. Believe me, you'll feel like you're getting someplace. Thank you.
Hi, I'm I'm Caitlin Ichetta with the St. Rose Show. Today we have with us Skadi, Albany-based rock reggae group. Skadi was formed in May of 2005 and plays a mix of dub, reggae, and rock music. Now, rock and reggae are pretty popular with a lot of people. What is dub music?
Simple answer, dub music is pretty much instrumental reggae with like a lot of effects to like accentuate certain parts of the song and stuff like that.
Echo, especially echo.
Very cool. Now, you guys have been together since 2005, so in all of that time, what's your favorite memory, your favorite band memory?
The flat tire on Martin Luther King Boulevard.
How'd that happen?
We were driving up from Virginia. It was about 4 o'clock in the morning, and a tire blew, and it was a disaster. And this guy right here saved our lives. He changed the tire 3 times.
He pulled the car up with his hand and
I
just
went-
like threw the tire.
As soon as the tire popped, I went in the glove compartment looking for the manual to try to figure out how to take the tire out. By the time I got it out, Anthony had already taken the tire off. Scan the tire.
Now, Skadi is a pretty catchy name. How did you guys come up with it?
It was actually one of the lyrics from an old song that we wrote. And it just caught on, so we used it.
Well, that's all the time we have for today. I'd like to thank all the members of Skadi for being with us. I'm Caitlin Ichetta with the St. Rose Show. Thanks for being with us.
Hi, my name is Vicky Prey. Many high school students have a lot of expectations, planning, and preparation for their college experiences. Which school will I go to? Do I want a big school or a small school? What will my major be? Will I live on campus or will I commute? And will people like me there? These are all common questions we ask ourselves before making this big, major decision that will affect us for years to come. Now, imagine all of these questions from an international student standpoint. You're not only thinking about college, you're thinking about college in another country, with a whole different culture, away from your family, possibly away from your primary language, and everything and everyone you know. It's very intimidating and scary and harder than many people realize, but people do it all the time. It's like a typical American student's study abroad dreams being realized, only it lasts for 4 years instead of 4 months. Now, many people don't know this, but here at St. Rose, there are a lot of these uprooted international students walking the campus who are living very far away from home and loving every minute of it. So today, we will meet some of these international students, and maybe you will be able to recognize and assist some of them in the future.
Hello, I'm Jared Adams. You may remember me from the Culture TV music program, which airs every morning at 3 o'clock. I'm sitting here today with a beautiful mustachioed man who is not Rip Taylor, but St. Rose's own Gary McLeod. Gary, great to see you today.
Jared, how are you?
I'm doing excellent. Gary, you know, a lot of people get to see these programs, but they're not always sure, you know, where it came from and who started it off. But I understand that this was a brainchild of yours, Culture TV, that is.
Yeah, I'd appreciate it if you didn't trumpet that around too much.
Well, Gary, before we get into that and the creation of this, why don't we talk about how you started off in television, public communications, all those kinds of fields?
Mostly by mistake, probably. And you'll find this out. Well, actually, you already found this out because you got there a lot quicker than I did. I sort of wandered into it. I mean, a lot of the work I was doing got me into doing TV interviews for the work I was doing, not because I was interviewing, I was being interviewed. I was working on a book called Men and Abortion when I was in grad school at SUNY, and nobody knew anything about this, so I would get a lot of calls from journalists, radio and TV, and the guy that I was writing the book with didn't like going on, so I was the one who went on. I knew the least, so I got to go. You know, but I was interviewing people all over the country about their experiences, so it's like, you know, and I kind of like it.
Yeah. Where did this take you? Around the country?
I don't know. Oh, where did it take me?
Literally.
Yeah, one famous day and a half, I was in Chicago during this really, really cold streak, and all the pipes in the hotel I was staying in froze. So I had to go on the Phil Donahue show that morning, and I couldn't take a shower. And I really looked like hell in the morning, as most people do, but we all think we do anyway. So my hair was like, it's kind of off on one side of my head or whatever. So I got to go to the TV show, and in the studio they had literally a green room, and they prep you. You know, you go in there and you get all psyched up. And Donahue was interviewing people one after the other. He was just doing these. He was taping live. Some of the shows were going to happen immediately, and some of them were going to be for later. Like he did all of his work on one day. So I was sitting in a room with Daniel Berrigan, and it was like, I'd read about this guy for years, and here I am sitting in a room with him, and we got into this conversation, and before I knew it, somebody came in and said, "Okay, you're on after the pregnant 15-year-old." I was like, "What?" And so I went out, and right away they did about 10 seconds of making sure I had a pulse, and then I was on, and it was like the camera was right in my face, and Donahue was even closer, and just asked me a whole bunch of questions. I have no idea what I said, and it was off. And then they put me in a cab and took me back to the hotel, and I flew back to Albany and took a shower. So about a week later, I got to watch this show because they had delayed it, and it was cut because somebody had been held hostage in Venezuela, an army captain, and they had just released him. So the story of the day was this guy being released, and then there was me. And it was hysterical because they had an interview with a guy being at an airport who had just been let out of captivity, and then the camera cuts to me, and I looked like I had just gotten out of captivity too. And it was on about a minute and a half or something. But I watched that. I don't like watching myself on TV, but I watched that and I said, that was really an exciting thing. I liked being able to try to get a message into 1 minute.
Yeah.
That's really hard to do, especially for me, because I just never stopped talking. So that was the first show I remember. It wasn't the first time I was on TV, but that was like the seminal moment.
Mm-hmm. And so you just fell in love with it after that.
Well, there's something about journalists too, because you realize they usually know what they're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to answer the questions so you get on to the thing you might want to say.
Right. And so out of all this, when did you finally find your way here to
St. Rose?
College? Yeah.
I was working in public relations downtown for the government, and I'd had a couple of jobs there, and I met the president of the college, Lou Vaccaro, at the time, and we had several meetings. I was involved in several meetings where he was a principal in the meetings.
And when was this? What year was this?
Early 80s.
Oh, okay.
And I was not supposed, I was the guy who sat around and took notes and wrote reports and did all the legwork. And my boss was the leader of this group, and Vaccaro was on his board. And one day Vaccaro hands me this little slip of paper and says, call this number. There's this job open at St. Rose and you might like it or something. I thought, yeah, sure. So I called the number. I got a faculty person. She said, why don't you come in and we'll have a talk. So I came in and had a talk, and it turned out to be an interview, which I think I probably knew, but I was really busy. So this was like going to lunch to talk to somebody and then going back to my job. But instead, I ended up in this little house on campus here with 3 or 4 students and 3 or 4 faculty people, and it was a job interview. And I just sort of went in and did it and then left, and I got the job. They called me up and said, would you do this? And I said, well, what's the salary? And they told me, and I almost, I gagged. I didn't know what to say. It was so low, I thought it was a joke. But the thing that's not a joke is that teaching is a wonderful thing. And I had been teaching before. I taught high school. I've been an adjunct at 2 or 3 colleges. I taught prisoners on the side when I was doing some other stuff in Rhode Island. And I just loved that interaction. And of course, I've been to grad school, and I missed it. I missed the stuff that goes on around a college.
So when you got here, where was the state of technology in the ways of, say, the TV studio and things like that?
The TV studio. I don't know. They probably still had the air conditioning unit running through it, which they still do, but we can't hear right now. There were no cameras, no big cameras. There was no radio station. There were no computers. There was no program per se. There was no journalism course, PR course. There weren't any. I mean, they offered them, but they hadn't been put together. I had to put those together when I got here.
So yeah, at what point did you decide to start this Culture TV?
This came out of a grant from the city of Albany, strangely enough, through Time Warner Cable, or the other way around. And Fred Antico was made the director of what's called the Media Education Program. And the deal is that if they gave us these cameras and airtime on Time Warner, we had to make shows. That didn't mean that we had to shoot the shows. We didn't actually have to make them. So we sort of brainstormed one day at lunch, and he said, well, could you make a show if you had to? And if you did, what would be on it?
Right.
And so I made a whole list of things, and then we talked about titles, and then I suddenly realized I just worked the whole thing out.
Well, Gary, very quickly, because I can see we're almost out of time, where do you see the future of the college going as far as public communications and technology goes?
Well, I hope it goes where I think it should go, but we don't know. It's going there a lot slower than I would like it to go there. But I think the communications department or function at this college needs to be recognized as something that is truly interdisciplinary, that reaches out to all other disciplines and can avail itself in both directions. I mean, we can serve and we can also create, which I don't think most departments can actually do. I mean, the technology and the philosophy of what you do as a communicator should make us the natural hub of this big interdisciplinary wheel. That's what I see. That's what I'd like to see. I think it's going to go there because sooner or later people are going to realize, look, we're not here to play departmental turf politics. We're here to do our thing. We got almost 250 majors right now, of which you are one.
Right.
And we're going to attract more talent. And when you attract more talent, you've got to get bigger and you got to get better. So Culture TV, I hope, is part of that history.
And And I think we'll all agree that it is. Gary McLeod, I want to thank you for being here today.
Yeah, thank you.
Yep. I'm Jared Adams. Thank you for watching. See you again soon.
The preceding program is a presentation of the Communications Department at the College of St. Rose.